Hello there and welcome. In this video, I want to introduce to you 10 tips and tricks which will make the Viceroy difficulty a lot easier for you to win. We're going to cover the difficulties and the solutions and various strategies and methods that you have at your disposal to get reliable victories in. So, as the very first thing, number one, I want to talk about the specific difficulty that Viceroy imposes on you. Namely, the difficulty multiplier is really high from this point on. For the first time, you are suffering the full impact of the forced hostility, and that means you will have a lot more global resolve issues than ever before, because normal hostility is already a global resolve destroyer, and it becomes even more vicious during the storm season. Altogether, take a good look on what increases the hostility and try to avoid these things as good as you can, because from the Viceroy difficulty up onwards, these things really do matter a lot. Which brings me to number two. You have here now a much higher time pressure on yourself than in the previous difficulties, mostly due to the fact that every year now weighs so much more on the hostility meter than ever before. So basically 2 years already make almost 100 points of hostility, which is an entire level of it, which is -6 resolve during a storm season. Every 2 years, basically. A little bit more than that, but you get the idea. And together with all the other problems that will accumulate on you, therefore, you really got to work faster than in the lower difficulty levels. This is very important, so know that passing of years is a pretty harsh penalty now, henceforth. So, number three. Due to the fact that your hostility will increase to points where it is unsavory during the storm season, your resolve will drop faster than you like it into the negatives. Here's a couple of things. Obviously, you can favor a race, which will give a +5 to the favored race and a -5 to the others. This is pretty straightforward. You can only do that every 60 seconds, but taking a favoring just before somebody leaves town can somebody save the day. But here's a very, very important little trick and caveat that you should know about. Species have different resilience levels when it comes down to their morale. Resilient depicts how quickly a change in resolve will actually impact on the species. We have here currently people with low resolve, which means once the number has a low goal, for example, going from 15 to -1, this number will drop really fast. On the lizards, for example, with a high resolve, from 15 to -1 can take an entire storm season. Seriously. Lizards are really good at packing up a lot of resolve before the storm and then punishing them during the storm because they have such a high resolve or time to drop their resolve that you can really work around that. There's many other tricks that you can work around. One other that I really like to use is via consumption control, forbidding things during the good seasons and activating them during the storm season if you ever need a extra push in terms of resolve, if you have a small stack of coats, boots, food, whatever. Now, let's move on over to number 4. Expand fast. From the Viceroy difficulty up on, I can only recommend to try to get your ball rolling as fast as you can. Open a dangerous glade as fast as you dare to. I recommend year 1. It is feasible and learnable to do that. If you ever lack resources, the trading post is your friend. But not only that, you want to aim for ramping up your productions as quick as you can, getting as many settlers in as quick as you can, because during the early years, namely year 1 to 5, you can't grow too fast, basically, because you have more tasks than you have workers for, pretty much always in every city, and therefore things can't grow fast enough. From year 5 plus onwards, interestingly enough, take good care that you can that you don't grow your population too fast. Because eventually, and that's been one thing that I had on most of my cities, I had more workers than jobs. Because only so and so many things were in my storage that need to be processed, and so on and so forth. So, the gist of it, grow fast early, and handle your growth carefully from the in the second half of the game. Number 5, tips for the storm. So the storm season, for one, has now always really nasty and many downsides for you. And what's really important is take a good look on your storm season penalties. And if there's one like here, Creeping Shadows, you need to shut down your expansionistic attempts during the storm season under any circumstances. Don't pick any keystones that go for this. There are certain strict no's that every map has and that you need to respect. This Creeping Shadows one can basically destroy your entire run if you don't respect it enough. Open 2 glades in the storm season and you are in a really, really dreary place. Either way, this is not the only thing. There's also certain thresholds for storm effects that are really unsavory. Hostility 5 plus effects are usually things that kill your citizens, unless you have some really, really high-end requirements met. This means if you have one of these killer mods, let's call them like that, you really gotta be careful that you don't exceed a certain hostility threshold during the storm season, and you might want to work for the later years into fulfilling that requirement to stop people from dying, because eventually hostility 5 plus is not really something you can avert anymore. So if you have things that kill your people if you don't meet the requirements, you gotta work on that. Or alternatively, my personal favorite is just win faster. Which brings me to number 6 though. Losing people can happen, and it is okay if it happens. The only penalty that this imposes is a increase of the Queen's Impatience. But if your run is going according to the plans, you usually can digest a little bit of an impact there. As a matter of fact, most of my settlements had way more workers than they actually needed when I won the game, and therefore don't worry too much if, despite your best efforts, 1 or 2 people leave the colony during the storm season. The game gets harder from here on, and it will happen more often, and it doesn't lose you the game. You just gotta keep an eye on the 2 things. For one, work on it that it doesn't happen again next year, or worse next year, and try to keep the impatience level at a point where it doesn't kill you anymore. So number 7, how to ensure your victory in practically any run. So there is a joint strategy that for me worked so far practically in any run. For one, keep an eye out for the foods that your species like. Food is extremely mighty, alongside with coats and boots and all those things that the people like to wear. Food and clothing alone already generate a lot of reputation points. Basically all you need to win the game. On top of that, work with the orders, so you have here already also a plethora of victory points, and after that try to get yourself a couple of tools into your possession so you can send those caches back to the Citadel for reputation points. The combination of luxury, orders, and adventures outside of the outside of your colony usually is enough for me to win me my games. If you still need a little bit extra, try to get in the services that your colony needs. You know, every species has different likes. And then if you get the building drafted, especially in the later pages of the game, just buy the material that they require, or even better, try to produce it yourself. And at the very latest, now you should win the game. Obviously, there are plenty of other methods that you can go into. For example, there's plenty of cornerstone skills here that will give you new victory strategies and ideas that you can work on. But if you are unlucky and the draft lets you down, a combination of comfort, orders, and spending tools usually broke every game into a victory eventually for me. Works on the lower difficulties, pretty foolproof. On the higher difficulties, when time gets scarcer, yeah, it doesn't. The strategy wears down. So number 8, aim for overproductions. I can't stress out enough how valuable it is to produce too much of something in this game. For example, here I already have one plantation and I strongly aim to build another one once I have the next patch of fertile soil available. Producing a large number of something in especially endless amounts ensures that you have a lot of things to sell, and that is always a good victory strategy. More about that in a hot minute. But in general, specializing your production towards a certain way is one of the things that made practically all of my runs eventually very, very successful. Every map has something where you can dive deeper into, and even if it is only something like a couple of extra collectors camps, fish ponds, whatever, there's usually something that you can really rake in and use it for whatever ends. Number 9, the Queen's Impatience. Here's a really, really interesting caveat about the Queen's Impatience. While, yes, this meter makes you lose the game if you let it run full, there's another nice little fine print here. It does lower the forest hostility the higher the Queen's Impatience grows. Therefore, filling this bar very high is actually smart, and only lowering it when it is necessary. It is obviously playing with fire, and if you let it boil over, you instantly lose the game. But as the game grows harder and the difficulty levels grow more intense, after Viceroy comes Prestige and such, playing around with the Queen's Impatience has never really felt bad for me. Here's one easy thing. Try to avoid returning orders during the storm season when your hostility meter would change a level if it is heightened by 15 points. That's basically it, because your hostility meter only interacts in units of 100. So, for example, lowering the Queen's Impatience now, let's do that for example, boom, does increase the hostility by 15, but it doesn't hurt us. It doesn't change anything at this point. But if you would hit a breakpoint, sometimes this can really cascade into problems, and working with the Queen's Impatience as a positive resource is something that I want to encourage you from this difficulty level on anyways. So number 10, last thing. During the Viceroy difficulty and during the early stages of Prestige, trading is overpowered. It is basically the most foolproof way of winning the game. Basically, going for the overproductions or hunting down containers, whatever you want to do, you just break it up into money or trade it directly and buy the things that you need to win the game. It is much easier to buy wares that you need rather than producing them yourself. Selling off raw wares is also very, very easy and feasible. The call immediately function only gives you a minor impatience penalty, and you can do that several times. The more often you do it, the more heavy the impatience penalty will grow, but I've had several games where I just won it by summoning the trader repeatedly and just selling off the things that I had and buying fancy drinks and clothes and everything for everybody. It's very potent. It wears down later when we suffer from a harsh price increase in the prestige levels, but until then, yeah, this is one of the safest ways of ensuring your victory. I really can't stress it out enough on this point. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. We're going to go over the higher difficulty levels in future videos, obviously, and feel free in the comment section to let me know what you think about it and what you would add into or what you want to talk about. I'm all ears. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider donating to the channel. I can use all the help that I can get. YouTube channel memberships are also awesome, or whatever tickles your fancy down in the description box below. Yet again, I want to say thanks for all the support that you are doing, and a big, big thanks to everybody watching this video up until the very end. deeply appreciate you taking that type of time, and I hope the video was helpful for you, and see you all on the next one. Bye bye.